Boom, we are alive, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be looking at some pretty bad data today around excess mortality and birth rates. Now, the reason I want to do this is because of the mathematical significance of what is taking event. So I'm going to share a few ideas. We're not going to blame anything, but I want to look at this because I believe it is unimaginably deflationary for the environment that we're in. And this, I believe, is one of the signals that not a lot of people are paying attention to. So if we want to be early to something, it's usually because not a lot of people also know what's going on. And here is one of those things. So we're going to start with some pretty standard data. So actually, what you should be seeing now is our world in data. These guys are pretty reliable. This is all government-backed data. And what I'm going to go through just really quickly, this is all excess mortality deaths from all causes compared to average over previous years. Now, we just had a pandemic in 2020, and apparently it was a bad one. Normally, pandemics in any animal, in any species, thin out the weak ones in the herd. The baseline for each of these at 0% is the 5-year rolling average. So for those of you who like data and statistics and like charts, if you have a 5-year rolling average and you are running, let's say 8 to 17% above the 5-year rolling average consistently to date, this contradicts what we would know from traditional pandemics, again, in any species. So excess mortality in the United States is still running around 8% above average, but was just 16% above average. United Kingdom up between 11 to 12% still. Again, if most of the people who were weak were already thinned out, you would assume then that the 5-year rolling average would push the excess mortality down because you would be left with all the young, healthy, virile people who survived that. United Arab Emirates on December 31st, 2020 just stopped posting data, so there's that. Canada was up at 27% excess mortality in September 2022, and then they just stopped also posting data in March of 2023. I wonder why. Poland here, Poland makes a little bit of sense. Poland, we're at negative 7%. We've actually been negative since around February 2023. Armenia, negative 14%. But again, here in Australia, 20% excess death rates right now. That is just madness to me. So again, you've got countries where you're well above. Costa Rica is at 18% above excess death, which is crazy. And again, the 5-year baseline rolling average. So Costa Rica really high, but Bulgaria negative 12%, negative 8%. And this is what you would expect to see. So shout out to John Campbell, who's been doing a very good job sharing this data. I've been talking about this for the last 2 years because it was pretty noticeable for some of this. Again, back in, October 2021, you had excess death rates that were higher than you'd expect. And when Omicron came in, you would expect to see that excess death drop significantly. And lo and behold, in Moldova, it does. Georgia stopped posting data, sadly. And again, in Bulgaria, negative 6 to 18%. So why is this important? Okay, well, here's another piece of data I thought was interesting. This is not good data, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, either. This is just trying to find stuff nobody else is really paying attention to in the financial world and what it means. If you lose people from the workforce or from life, like they're not around anymore, there's a lot of deflationary waves coming into the market. So here, the Fred Economics St. Louis Fed data, you have June, July 2020 around, I think this is in millions of people. So I think this is 28 million or 2.8 million. I'll have to double check. I'm actually going to use a little bit of someone else's data here too, but found this one impressive. Look at, you generally have disability being kind of stable around 27 to 28,000 and slowly growing 2015, but again, stable between 2017 in 2020 effectively. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you've increased almost double, almost twice the amount of people that were disabled are now disabled, which means they're not in the workforce anymore and they're applying for disability checks from the United States. The other thing I thought was range. I'm like, well, let's just keep following this thread down. We like economic data. So here we go. Fred, economic data. Let's go premature death rate for the Bronx, New York. And you see these very concerning trends start to take place. Here's 2000, and then boom into 2020. Now they've stopped. They haven't produced data for 2020. One or two yet, technically. Although, yeah, this is the max date that they only give you till 2020. For some reason, they stopped updating this as well. But here you go again. Just for some insight, boom, as soon as 2020 hit, premature death started to jump through the roof. Now, premature death means younger people dying. We know old people are going to probably die from things. It's part of getting old. I mean, everybody knows that. Like, as my grandparents got older, I'm like, oh my God, these people are going to die. I should probably spend more time with them because I know what's going to happen. Like, this is not a thing we don't know. We know how this stuff works. So premature death is a big difference. Here we go. Cook County, Illinois. Again, these are massive changes, and not too many people are talking about this. So this just goes through kind of county by county. Here, Virginia Beach, it actually has been rising significantly since 2018, but again, very steep rises coming back out of 2020 effectively. Now, we'll jump over into our world in data again. This is a 1950 on the left-hand side of the chart, and we are currently at 1977. So in 1977, you had 942 million people in China, 651 million in India, and around 441 million in Africa united. So UN just means all the countries in the African continent in one basket, effectively. And then followed by the United States, Indonesia, and you could call Indonesia part of Asia. There's a way to do that in measuring. But what I want to do is we'll just let this chart play out here for a minute and watch the growth. So China, India, and Africa have all basically hit parity with one another. Now, I couldn't add I could add United States and Canada, and it would put, United States, Canada only has 30 million people, but right now you have China, Africa, and India leading the world's population. Now, why is this important? Okay, so the next page we wanted to look at was actually around the M2. Where's my M2 chart? Okay, so back to the dollar here. And what I wanted to do is we'll go back to the S&P 500 and look, or can I where's my just M2? There we go. So here, this is the M2 chart. So basically, since 1977, the growth of the population is equivalent to the growth of the dollars. Inflation is often designed this way. It's designed, hey, we have more people, we need more money, we need more velocity for all those people spending all that more money. But if population is diminishing, we've got a very different beast on our hand that we have never had before. So this pivot, these inflection points, not just in the printing, but the potential of like a topping out of population is going to have unimaginable effects on the market. It's going to change the workforce. And things like this economic data where we were looking at disabilities, this is unmeasured before. Like, again, here, when we went from, 27, or I think, again, it's in millions, to from 2.7 million to 3 million people with disabilities in the United States, that's not a huge change. But to go from 3 million people to almost up to 3.5 million in a very short period of time, this is where you start to get into something really unique. So this is a quote from Edward Dowd. He's been doing some great analysis of this stuff. Wonderful, horrible stuff to be reading, but wonderful interpretation of the data, I guess. So he's a Wall Street investor. He says, we focus on signals in the frequency and rate of change. And this was a 3 standard deviation year over year in the road of growth of change for people on disability. So it continues. 3.2 million people in about 2 years have been disabled. So we look to dive into the numbers a little further. And this is what we were looking at before, is that you go from around 2.9 million people on disability, all of them 3.5 on disability in the United States. So why does this matter? Well, this is a 3 sigma event. This usually happens once every year. You find stuff like this in the market where it's such a big change. If it's a 3.5 sigma event, it's every 6 years. 4 sigma every 43 years. 4.5 sigma every 403 years. A 5 sigma event is every 4,776 years. So lastly, the thing that was crazy is there's a massive birth rate drop in Taiwan. In May 2020, compared to May 2021, it was a 23% drop. that represents what is effectively a 26 sigma event. So just again, to look at this in comparison, a 7 sigma event is 1 in every 1 billion years. So this massive drop in birth rate is a 1 in a billion year event. Okay. Now, with all the things like AI and all this new investing, that's all technology that's going to be clearly deflationary to begin with, this is the thing that most people are still not paying attention to. Anyways, I just wanted to look at that data. I know it's not super fun or friendly for a Saturday morning, but that's what it is. I don't know what to blame. More people should be talking about it. More people need to know about it. Because when you have massive changes like this, and many people are not aware, that's usually where good trades are possible. So throughout this chaos, throughout this blood in the streets, there's going to be an awesome trade here, probably above few of them over the coming years. So not to be a doomsday and totally pessimistic about these massive changes in disability or birth rates or excess death. For those of you that aren't in the trend that's disappearing, there's opportunity there. Anyways, I'll just keep making videos and do it so that I don't get kicked off YouTube. What's your guys' thoughts? I mean, we'll see you on the next episode.